In this self-reflection video, I'm going to be going over chapter 4. In chapter 4, I was already aware of many terms that were listed in chapter 4, such as cultural pluralism, racial microaggressions, and self-disclosure. From what I remember from my class, I do remember her talking about the challenges and sometimes the difficulties that counselors face in accidentally imposing certain values on their client. I also understand that there are challenges to reaching diverse client base, and especially certain medical models nowadays aren't always structured to fit the needs of those in a lower socioeconomic class. I think as counselors, sometimes if we do not come from a diverse background, I think that we oftentimes think that this will not lead us to connect with our clients efficiently. But as we find out in the chapter, this isn't true. And I think self-disclosure is a really big topic we discussed in my previous class. And I think that is a slippery slope in itself. I think that there has to be a certain comfortability and a cemented relationship you already have with the client to do self-disclosure, because if you self-disclose too early, or if you self-disclose and you barely know them, it can come across in a certain way that may not present itself to a positive counseling experience. My teacher also went over the idea that sometimes our own body language and the way that we talk and the way that we approach things is different from other people's cultures. So like certain cultures have a different view of assertiveness, or different viewpoints, like certain cultural aspects, they have different backgrounds, they have different practices. So understanding our own assumptions, understanding where we can differ, where we can be wrong in certain instances, and understanding that, and making acknowledgement of those assumptions that we do make is important, because oftentimes as counselors, we without realizing it, we all stereotype in our own way. And I think that as counselors, taking that step to acknowledge it and work through those challenges is important. And additionally, the book, and also in my KSAT class, we went over the importance of going through a counselor as a counselor, and multi-counselor training for counselors. The question that challenged me the most was, at this point in the career, I feel well prepared to counsel a diverse client population. I honestly did not know which to put for the answer, as I felt like I wanted to say once again, I had no problems with working a diverse client base, because I do feel very cultural. With that being said, I also understand I still have much to learn, and I will learn a lot more along the way. This question challenged me as it required me to do an in-depth self-assessment and ask myself, am I really ready to work with this diverse client, or is there room for more improvement and more education? And I do believe there is room for more education. The one thing I learned about myself this week is that I'm not as culturally aware as I realize. In order to be culturally aware, I have to be constantly educating myself about various different cultural groups and staying involved and making sure that I am aware. And that's not something that I currently practice, but I'm going to continue to practice that, and making sure that I am aware, and not just aware of my own personal culture, but aware of other people's cultures, to make sure that I am completely culturally competent. And when I go into practice, I want to make sure that I can connect with people, or make an effort to, and have that basis down already. And through readings and through research of myself, I think that those are the steps that I'm going to take to resolve that conflict within myself. I think in these situations, when dealing with a client, in this situation, I think that understanding my communication style, the way I present myself, and my background and align with everyone is key. In situations where I'm working with a diverse client group, I plan on educating myself as much as possible and using supervision when necessary. I think that my biggest thing that I want to do when working with this diverse client is to listen to them and educate myself as much as possible, which I already said, but I feel like that really is the most important. And I think that as a future social worker, I really hope that my place of work has multicultural training before I begin, or I am required to do multicultural training, because I think that would help me work with these diverse clients. But if not, I do have a plan for educating myself and just maintaining that openness while working with these clients. And this is how I plan to work with clients from diverse places, and I really hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you.